I think it's 89% of residents wouldn't move into an apartment complex that didn't have reliable internet or Wi-Fi. It's almost like they wouldn't move in if it didn't have electricity or water or heat. I mean, that's just kind of a given, right?
Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast, the podcast dedicated to simplifying the commercial real estate industry for the masses. Each week, we sit down with industry experts to dissect the many facets of commercial real estate and extract valuable lessons you can apply to your business. Whether you're a new or seasoned business owner or investor, the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast will be your go-to resource for all your commercial real estate needs. Now, here are your hosts, Raphael Collazo and Jeff Walston.
Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast. I'm your host, Raphael Collazo. Unfortunately, my co-host, Jeff Walston, is on a big project right now trying to finalize it all, so he won't be joining us today on the interview. But we have the honor of interviewing Todd Thorpe, a VP of Sales at DojoNetworks. Really excited to dive into a little bit about his backstory and, me coming from a tech background. I'm really interested to see, what the offering itself provides landlords, developers, et cetera, to the marketplace. So, Todd, thanks again for stopping by.
Raphael, thank you so much. Very happy to be here, and we can get as tech heavy as you want. So
yeah, no, I mean, so just to give you a backdrop on me, I was in IT consulting for 5 years, and so I've dealt with a lot of technology on the government side. So we had a commercial off-the-shelf software product that we helped implement. So, every time I have, tech CEOs or, other people that are affiliated in the tech industry that are servicing the commercial real estate industry, it's always kind of fun to, pick their brain and get an understanding of what they're doing on a day-to-day. So
a lot happening in the space, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So as far as, you though, I mean, we're interested in learning a little bit more about your backstory. So if you don't mind kind of sharing a little bit of that, I think that'd be awesome.
Well, great. And again, thank you for having me on. So I'm one of those, what they call a cable dog, right? So I've been in telecom for a little over 30 years and primarily spent about 20 of that 30 with large cable companies, MSOs, and have been working in the multifamily space within that for probably all of that 20 years in multifamily sales, working with property owners, developers, property management companies, providing services to those. So it's a great space. I love commercial real estate. There's so much going on. And then I left the large corporate world. In about 2019, I did some consulting and was almost ready to retire. I just was, kind of at the end of the career. And I met Dan Myers, who's the president and founder of DojoNetworks. And we just kind of hit it off just through networking. I think it was LinkedIn is, how we really started to get to know each other. And then he approached me about 2 years ago, asked me to join Dojo as the vice president of sales. I will be celebrating, I believe, my 2-year anniversary coming up next month. And it's just an exciting time to be in this space. Multifamily is an industry that's ever evolving. And there's so much going on in the technology world right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. And we're going to dive in a little bit on that front as well, because you're right. I mean, it's similar to, I think a lot of people, that may or may not be in the industry, a lot of times think that, commercial real estate is a lag, which in some cases it is, but there are a lot of technological changes that have occurred over the last decade that have just been, monumental in how people interact with the building and everything else. So, I think, as we'll dive in throughout this episode, I'm sure you'll be able to share some insights on that front. So. Well, yeah, one of the things I'm curious about is, obviously you talk about telecom. That was your, you've been in telecom for, decades. Mm-hmm. You got into the, commercial real estate side, 20 years ago. What was the impetus for that? Was it just more so that opportunity came available and you kind of just took it, or was there a reason for wanting to kind of go that route?
Yeah, it wasn't, I sought that out. I was, asked to start the MDU, or, multi-dwelling unit sales division at the company that I was at the time. And, we built that up from probably about 6 people within the organization, doing what are called right of entry agreements and bulk contracts and easements with owners. And we built that department up to probably about 200 people when I left. So it was a department that was really in its infancy, and there was a lot going on in the industry at the time. And so we developed that. So it wasn't so much that I kind of sought that out, rather as I was kind of brought in to help lead that with a great team. And I learned a lot. And there, as commercial real estate, it's this small, large group of people, right? Everybody kind of knows each other, especially on LinkedIn. Just the people that are connected and trying to help each other and lift each other up from on the investment side, and the syndicators out there. They're after the same thing, and they're looking for those deals. But what's so rewarding is that everybody is trying to help each other be better. And the trade shows and the conferences that we attend, not even just from the technological side, but the investment side and the raising of the capital. I've met so many amazing people, and very talented, and they bring so much to the table. It's just a great place to be.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I've noticed about the industry as well. It is a very, supportive industry when it comes to, the different partners that you're involved with. And, just in general, I mean, even on our local market on the brokerage side, we have a lot of people that quote unquote are competing amongst one another to win business. But at the end of the day, we're colleagues, and we interact with each other on a regular basis, and we're always there to support each other in a variety of different ways. So I've definitely kind of felt the same on the local level. And as we've interacted with so many people on this podcast, I think we've had almost 120 people on the podcast at this point. So I've been talking to people all across the nation, and it seems to be a similar type of vibe as well. But you kind of had mentioned, obviously supporting one another, as far as from the investment side, I feel like, people do look at, opportunities in the marketplace. And one of the things that they have to think about is the operational side of things. So just because you find a great deal, you also have to have the pieces in place to make sure that the property functions as effective as possible. And, obviously on the tech side and cabling, everything else, I guess, could you elaborate, what is DojoNetworks itself? I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah. So DojoNetworks is a national property-wide managed Wi-Fi provider. So we will install a managed Wi-Fi network within the property, bring fiber into the property from the street, and then distribute that throughout the property within the unit itself, and then the common spaces of that property. So when the resident moves in, they are immediately what we call a frictionless experience. So when they move in, they are connected, their devices, their phone, their tablet, their computer. From an onboarding standpoint, there's really nothing that they have to do. So they go to the leasing office, process all that paperwork, they move into the property, and they're on the network. It's kind of similar to if you check into a hotel and you go to the front desk, you check in, so what's the Wi-Fi password, right? And they give that to you so you can connect to the network. It's kind of similar in that sense. So you stay at a resort or a hotel, you're on the Wi-Fi network, hopefully. And you wouldn't even think to stay in a hotel anymore if they didn't have Wi-Fi. If they said they didn't have it, you probably would look at them a little different. Well, what do you mean you don't have Wi-Fi? So it's expected. And I kind of look at it from back in the day, and I'm probably dating myself a little bit. I don't know if some of your listeners can relate, but the days of cable TV when it was in its infancy, and you would see on the on the marquee outside of the hotel or the motel, free cable TV, and it was the enticement to stay, and free HBO at the property. And then it became free Wi-Fi, right, as an enticement to stay at that hotel or resort. Now, Wi-Fi is kind of taking the place of that. Cable, TV, traditional TV is kind of dropping that viewership, and streaming has taken over. And what do you need to stream? You need internet. You need reliable internet. It needs to be dependable. And Wi-Fi now, and the statistics are staggering. The number of people, I think it's 89% of residents wouldn't move into an apartment complex that didn't have reliable internet or Wi-Fi. It's almost like they wouldn't move in if it didn't have electricity or water or heat. I mean, that's just kind of a given, right? Wi-Fi is now a utility. It's the fourth utility, and it just has to work, and it has to be reliable. And I think with COVID and a lot of work from home, people experienced that. And, they have to be online, podcasts and Zoom calls and all of this communication, which is virtual, has really kind of made Wi-Fi that must have. So for owners and developers who are adopting this technology and putting it in are the ones that are really having a home run, and they're increasing the value of their asset. And, regardless of the hold time, whether it's 5 years or not, they're increasing the value of their asset. They're increasing NOI at the property by adding value. And we're seeing it across the board. It's not just luxury high rise. We're doing this in value add properties where they're not only putting capital into fixtures and new parking lot and paint and landscaping, they're also investing in technology.
Absolutely. So just the mechanics of it. So in the case of, let's say, one of those value add projects, you buy a property, you start the renovation process. You essentially, as a company, would run cabling within the property to allow for each of the units to have access to Wi-Fi. As far as the offering
Correct.
itself, is it a shared system, or is it one of those things where you still would go to your provider, whether it's Spectrum or some of these other companies, to get online as far as your service is concerned?
No, we would be the internet service provider.
Okay.
So the owner or the developer is going to install the system, and generally they're going to pay for it up front. Mm-hmm. It's an asset, right? It's a fixture of the property. Mm-hmm. So they can, in the case with us, we can finance that capital for them if they don't have that as part of when they do their pro forma and their underwriting, and that's not included in that cost. We can certainly assist in the funding of that project. But yeah, they're going to either pay for it up front, pay for it in installments. On the capital side, we're going to bring a fiber circuit to the property itself, to a data closet somewhere. Mm-hmm. And it depends on if it is a garden style type property, if it is a low rise, mid rise, high rise. So the design itself, the physical design, would kind of be dependent upon that. But yeah, you're going to come into a main data or telecommunications closet somewhere, going to install equipment in there, and then we're going to connect, depending on how many data closets there are. If it's garden style, and maybe if it's open, kind of open breezeway, stairway, and they're not enclosed, typically you'll need maybe an outdoor cabinet somewhere, metal cabinet, upsize of a large microwave kind of, and then electronics in there. You're going to connect, or we would, if you don't have a low voltage contractor, we can do that, connecting all of your buildings with fiber underground in conduit, and then running Ethernet, Cat 6A Ethernet, to every unit. And then within every unit would be an access point mounted on the wall with 4 Ethernet ports. So the resident moves in, they move into their unit. There's a wall-mounted access point that emits a Wi-Fi signal. They could plug in because there's 4 hardwired ports on the access point itself, plug in a gaming system, TV, laptop, etc. But it would emit a Wi-Fi signal like a consumer grade, cable modem would, but this is enterprise grade. So we use Ruckus equipment, which is kind of top of the line equipment in the industry. And then the resident not only has the Wi-Fi in their unit, but then they can go anywhere on property because they have what's called a VLAN, or it's a private area network. You probably know that, Raphael, right, from your IT days. So they are going to connect as if they're in their unit, and they could be at the pool, or they could be in the laundry room, or wherever the owner wants kind of ubiquitous common area coverage, and they can go anywhere on site as if they're still in their unit. So they're connected. Just again, using the hotel example, you go to a resort and you're pretty much on the Wi-Fi network wherever you are. The difference with a managed Wi-Fi system that we would deploy is that VLAN experience. So the resident could be at the pool and be connected to an access point outdoor in the pool, right? Or, next to the pool, but they're connected as if they're back in their unit. They could print something from a device poolside, and it would print in the printer back in their unit. So that's kind of from a networking standpoint, how everything kind of comes together. And then there's that reliable, again, Wi-Fi experience that the resident's going to get wherever they are.
That's great. No, that kind of helps paint the picture for a lot of people about what the value add would be from a resident standpoint. One thing I'm kind of curious about, obviously, as you know, security is a big concern in tech regardless. So you had mentioned the private, key that you'd have per individual resident. Is that, I guess, how you mitigate some of that, or what other ways are you able to do that?
That's exactly how you do it. It is a single SSID, or, for the listeners, that's your network. So when you look at your device and you connect to your network, that's your SSID. There's a single SSID for the entire property, but every resident has their own username and password to log in. And so what we do is about 2 weeks before the resident moves in. So we take a rent roll and we integrate. We have our own CMS system called Elemento. That's our what we call our single pane of glass, and it's our way to manage all of the business aspects. And that gives the leasing staff access to it, the resident access to it, our call center, our NOC. Everybody has a view into Elemento, but that integrates with a majority of the most common property management software out there, like Yardi and Entrata and that. If it's a system that doesn't, we just would take an ingestion from that. But essentially, we build the property inside of Elemento with with the rent roll, right, from the property. All the addresses are built. We get the name of the resident and their email and their cell phone number. 2 weeks before they move in, we email them their credentials to log in. And then the day before they move in, we send it to them again via text. So they can then log in as soon as they step foot on property. They're already on site. And that password is blocked from everyone else. So all you're seeing is just one network. You're not seeing all of these other cable modems that you would see like in a traditional apartment. If everybody got a cable modem out there, you're seeing everybody else's network. You're just seeing one. And then if people have what are called headless devices, like an Alexa or something like that, got to be careful, don't say that, because then she starts talking to you, right? So, but if they have like an Alexa device or something like that, we can send out separate SSIDs for those types of smart devices, whether it's smart locks, thermostats. If a property owner wants to deploy that, what's called that IoT or Internet of Things technology, they can deploy that, and the keyless locks, the leak detection, and all of that smart technology, access control. That also would ride over the Wi-Fi network, but we would allocate a separate SSID for all of those devices as well. So that does create that secure environment. Resident doesn't have to worry about it.
That's amazing. So are these applications, are they applicable in a hotel or short-term rental situation as well? Or have you seen that application as well?
100%. What we do, we could deploy in a hospitality situation. And, we've done some of those deployments. We don't play in that space though. I mean, we can, we just don't actively go out and target those opportunities. We are strictly multifamily, student housing, your conventional, traditional type apartment housing, affordable housing. We do a lot of affordable housing, and then senior and assisted living type properties, because all of them, the design is essentially the same.
Sure.
Little bit different depending on existing versus a new construction project. We do about half and half. About 50% of our business is existing retrofit, and 50% of it is new construction. You're really starting to see the new construction side for obvious reasons. You're building a $50 million or $100 or $200 million property. You might as well just put the infrastructure in as you're building it. Walls aren't up, and that way it's done. But retrofitting a property is very easy to do. You just got to find kind of creative ways to get the wiring, so it's either in the ceiling or various pathways, so it's concealed. So it looks nice, right? You don't want wires hanging all over, and you want it to be, if you're going to spend the money, especially, you buy a property, it's value add, and you're trying to take it from a C to a B. You want it to look nice. That's the whole point of that added value, right? So.
Absolutely. And cabling's an art, man. It really is. I mean, we had our tech guys on site when I used to be in the software development space, and
right.
I mean, it was an art to be able to move, run this cabling wherever they needed to make sure it was out of sight, out of mind, wasn't causing hazards or anything like that. So, I could definitely see where that could be, something you have to plan it out. You have to sit down and kind of analyze that. So one thing I'm curious about is obviously from the operational standpoint. So, I as a landlord, I'm saying, okay, we're going to put in this cabling. We're going to offer Wi-Fi to the tenant base. Have you seen, I guess, more so in applications, is this more like we're offering it as an amenity, like you have a free Wi-Fi, or is there a way to bill back some of this to tenants? Or how exactly, how have you seen it implemented from an operational standpoint?
So the key is what you said is the word amenity. So from an operation standpoint, and that's where the increase in NOI comes in, is charging the resident for an additional fee. So just to give your listeners kind of an idea of what they could expect. So typically you're going to see, and again, it's going to vary depending on where that property is located, because of fiber pricing, you might be different in California versus Pennsylvania. But, by and large, you take that fiber cost and you're looking at, and property size, where the break even really starts to make sense is about 100 units and above. You can do smaller properties, but the cost in your return on investment, your ROI is going to be greater than a larger property. So you're looking at, on average, $20 a unit, per unit per month, maybe 30 or more. But, say that sweet spot is 20, 25. We've seen it even in the high teens. But let's just use $20 a unit and 100 unit property. So that's $2,000 a month that we would bill the owner. The owner then has a number of different ways that they can recapture that cost. And how they do it is up to them. We don't dictate that. They could just make it free, and it's use it as a marketing expense and not recoup any of that money. That's one way to do it. Just and advertise free internet, right? And just provide it, to the resident. Like some landlords include electric, right, in the rent, or water. It's just included in the rent. Or they can charge an additional fee for it. So just like you charge for, having a washer and dryer in your unit, is an extra $40 a month or whatever. So when you think about it, the retail price from Spectrum, Comcast, the typical AT&T, Verizon, when you call the cable company or the phone company to get your internet, you're probably going to pay north of $80 a month just for internet service. And it's not symmetrical, meaning same up and down. It would be like 300 by 10. So your download speed and then your upload speed. So if the owner charges, say, $50 or $60, the resident is still going to pay less than what they would pay on their own going out to get it. So that's very important. The speed that the resident would have would be better than they would get from a provider. Ours is symmetrical speed starting at 100 by 100. So it's the same upload, download. And we can do all the way up to a gig to the unit. And that's really dependent on what the owner wants. And I can explain that. The owner may want to have a gig and advertise a gig to the unit. But now there's your NOI, right? So they pay us $20 a unit. They charge every resident $50. They make $30 a unit off of that. And they could put it in the rent. They could charge a tech fee. There's a lot of different ways, but there's nothing legal or contractual. They can do it however they want.
That's amazing. That's an amazing value proposition because, like you said, let's say it's 100 units, your delta, what you make is $30. You multiply 30 by 100, that's 3,000 times over the course of a year. That's 36,000. And as we all know, NOI, divided by a cap rate is going to give you additional value. And so if the cap rate is, I don't know, let's say 5 cap, just to make the math easy, you're looking at, 600, is it 600,000? No, just over 600,000, $720,000 in added value potentially.
That was pretty good. I could not do that.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I'm pretty sure 36,000 divided by 0.5, you're multiplying the number by 20, and that's what you would get. So that's
it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a significant value add, and we're all in the game of forced appreciation. So if you do that, you can get that that value you're looking to get. So that's great. It's good to hear.
And then you have a fixture, you have an asset in the property too. It's an improvement.
Absolutely.
It's a capital improvement that you now have. And again, most from what I understand, 5-year hold is pretty much the standard. Some are less, some are more. But now you pass that on to the owner. There's value there that the owner would obviously benefit from. The buyer, I should say, from the previous owner.
Absolutely. And a lot of times people don't think about lease up time. When you think about units, I mean, when you create those amenities that people are seeking, the likelihood of you having downtime in your units shrinks. So what's the value proposition there? If it takes you 2 or 3 less days per unit to lease your units, that's going to add significant value to your offering as well. So there's a lot of different nodes you can take from this to say, okay, not only could I potentially generate more revenue through, offering this as a quote unquote, offering, and then, charging the tenants for it, which again, value for them because they're going to pay less than they would if they go out into the marketplace and get, their own Spectrum or Cox or whatever other provider for internet. And not only that, but my lease up time hopefully shrinks as well because it's a lot more attractive of an offering when compared to other offerings in the marketplace. So I could definitely see the value.
This only works if the provider is providing really great service, or what we call, I'm going to use a bad word, but we call it kick-ass Wi-Fi. I mean, because it has to work. And if it doesn't, then you're really not, you could buy it, for $5 a unit. But if the service is lousy, the resident's going to hate it anyway, and they're going to try to go to the property across the street. So the key is to provide a service that is essentially flawless. You give the resident, or you take away a barrier for the resident. Why would you ask your resident to jump through hoops when they move in? You want, I would think, I'm not a landlord, right? But I would think you want it as easy as possible for that resident to move in. And one way to do that is by taking things away. So why have to call the cable company to go get your internet set up? And then now it's that hassle. We've all done it. We've been on the phone, or we go to the cable store to pick up the equipment. We do a self-install. It doesn't install right. It's a pain in the butt. That's one problem. And then, second is you have all of these commercial grade modems in a property that are the Wi-Fi spectrum, that it's congested, and those modems are stepping on each other. You live in an apartment that doesn't have managed Wi-Fi, or even a house, and what do? Look at the networks on your phone, where you connect to yours. You see 10 or 20 or 30 other ones, right? So that's other just kind of rogue equipment that's out there that's just going to create a problem. And if you're not providing good customer service and a reliable service, so less than 0.5% of all of our end users submit a trouble ticket on an annual basis. So our KPIs and our metrics kind of speak for themselves. We answer the phone with a live person in 15 seconds or less, and we resolve trouble tickets in 8 minutes or less. And a lot of times the trouble tickets that we see are just password related. It's not the service was bad. So our KPIs are something that we take very seriously. We kind of think of ourselves as a service and support company first, and a internet company second. We want to deliver a flawless experience. It doesn't mean it's perfect, but we build it right, we do it right, so we can support it and manage it right. So your resident, the residents that your listeners can be assured that their resident is going to have a great experience when it comes to the internet. That's what we want to deliver, is that assurance. So the resident will stay and not go to the leasing office and start saying, well, this, the internet here, blankety blank, and it's terrible, right?
Well, and like you said, I think the way that people work within a space. No, obviously this is a residential standpoint, but a lot of people, when they go to work and they come home, and then they are on the Wi-Fi or the internet the remainder of the night. Some even work from home. So the fact that you can offer, something that can guarantee great upload, download speeds, make sure that their internet experience is seamless. I mean, that, in my opinion, is probably one of the best amenities you could offer someone in today's day and age. So, I definitely think that, the offering that you guys are providing is pretty awesome. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that, how you guys continue to grow going forward. And that's kind of leads me to my next question, is that, what do you think the future of, your guys' company is? Like, what I guess are your goals from a, business acquisition standpoint, and also, maybe some verticals you're looking to explore in the future?
So right now, we're, like I said earlier, we're probably 50% existing, 50% new construction, probably a majority. So the company was started in '96 in State College, Pennsylvania. If people know, your listeners know, that's home for a Penn State University, very large university. We serve probably 80-90% of all the off-campus student housing for Penn State University. So that's where the company grew from there. And we're now in 22 states, growing fast, but not getting out over our skis. We don't want to grow so fast that the customer experience starts to suffer. That's extremely important. Where we see growth for our company is new construction is really starting to take off, where that's almost now a given that a developer owner is going to put in managed Wi-Fi. It's not even an option. And it's, 60, 70 unit properties. It's not the big 2, 3, 400-ish big properties. And then we're also seeing a shift. Student housing was really the early adopter for managed Wi-Fi for obvious reasons, right? College kids move in, they're big users of internet. So the student housing market really saw, they got on this right away, much like hospitality and hotels. We're also now seeing a big affordable housing is huge and a big growth area for us, and value add properties are so it's not just the big luxury mid-rise, high-rise properties in Miami. It's those value add properties that are obviously good investment markets where the cap rates are attractive for investors, but their underwriting is including, when they do their capital, it's including putting in a managed Wi-Fi system. You're looking at, on average, about $1,000 a unit to install a system and do it right. And that includes the wiring, the electronics, the network, everything from soup to nuts. So it's almost like this is just a great space to be in, because it's not even, we have so much business just coming to us now because the word's gotten out, I guess. It's not really a secret anymore. And then to add on to that, it's the IoT, the Internet of Things, and the smart apartment stuff that everybody's hearing about, prop tech that you keep hearing about. It's adding on that technology now, in addition to a managed Wi-Fi network, where they're doing the smart locks and they're doing the leak detection and perimeter control, video surveillance. All of those devices need a network to ride on.
Yep. And they probably need a pretty powerful network as you start adding on more and more things that require this, upload, download, the robust upload, download system. So I 100% agree with you. And, that's an interesting, take on it, in that, the demands for this type of product is going to increase over time. I mean, a lot of new product that comes to market, tenants are going to demand it. And that's one of the big takeaways. I went to the CRETech conference in 2021 in New York City, and they, obviously had phenomenal speakers and CEOs from different tech companies talking about different things. And one of the biggest takeaways that I got from the conference is that commercial real estate is shifting from its, lag as far as technological adoption now, because the tenants are starting to demand it. Like there's no longer a incentive from an owner's perspective to just sit on their laurels and just kind of not think about these types of situations. And so now you're starting to see a big shift, and I'm sure that only is going to continue to accelerate going forward.
100%.
Definitely. So one of the things we love to ask our guests is, we're all avid readers. I love reading different types of books on all different types of subjects. And so one of the things we like to ask is, what is one of the most impactful books that you've ever read in your life? And it doesn't have to be commercial real estate related per se, but I just wanted to get your take on it.
What is it? Ryan Holiday is an author that I'm into quite a bit. The Obstacles, The Way. I love all of his books. And I am an avid nonfiction reader. I actually had this conversation with somebody yesterday about reading, and they're big into fiction. I'm like, I just can't do it. I can't. I'll watch the movie and then rather than read the book. But I love nonfiction. But you should feed your mind. Try to turn everything off at the end of the night, and shut the devices down and read a book. And whether it's a fiction or nonfiction book. But yeah, I'm into nonfiction quite a bit. Love the Ryan Holiday stuff quite a bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. The way I describe with books is that it just gives you another layer to add to the tapestry that is the way that you view the world and make decisions in life.
Yeah.
Because if you have more data to draw on and life experiences to draw on, even though there may not be your own. I mean, the fact that you referenced Ryan Holiday, I mean, he referenced in The Obstacle Is the Way, he references a bunch of different people who were able to overcome stuff through just taking through that adversity. Now you have their life experiences that you can add to that corpus of data in your brain. So it's pretty impressive. I that's why I always say, like, it's important to just set aside, even if it's 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day, just read 5 or 10 pages. It adds up super quick. So
feed your mind, keep that mental growth going.
Absolutely. Well, Todd, we greatly appreciate your time. I know you're a busy individual.
Thank you.
I'm glad we were able to get this done. I know we actually had, for those of you guys who are listening, we had to reschedule this twice, unfortunately, just because of some scheduling conflicts, but I'm really, really glad we were able to sit down and talk a little bit about your story and Dojo. It seems like you guys are going to be doing great things going forward as well. So if, as far as what we usually ask our guests at the end of the podcast is, we have this thing called the CRE Treasure Chest. It's a repository of resources that we make available to our audience. And usually our guests contribute something like a helpful PDF, ebook, spreadsheet, really anything they think would be of value to our audience. So if you don't mind kind of sharing what you're willing to contribute today.
So I have a great case study that I think that they would enjoy, and it has to do with a stray bullet and a sprinkler. And that's all I'm going to say. They'll have to go to the treasure chest to read it. So hopefully that was enough of a tease to get them to go.
I'm going to have to read it too. So I'll probably get a sneak peek ahead of time, but in the meantime, you guys should definitely check it out, and we'll add that to the treasure chest link as well. But like I said, Todd, thanks again for your time. If people wanted to reach out, learn more about DojoNetworks, or really just, be able to get in contact with you for any reason, what's the best way to do that?
2 ways. So LinkedIn, my profile, pretty active on LinkedIn. So that's a great way. And my email and my phone number are on my profile. So you can connect with me that way. Send me a connection request, DM, whatever. I love that. And then we also attend a lot of the trade shows. So we're going to be at the IMN show coming up this year, and we're going to be in Dallas, Atlanta. So, and we post a lot about that when we're going to be at those shows. So if you are going to be attending any of those shows, let's connect and hook up, because that's another way for us to kind of get to know each other. And I'm always willing to just answer questions, right? Free advice. It's important. That's what I think I said at the beginning of the show. You've got to lift each other up and help each other. It's not got to be making money, right? That's what we're here for. But at the same time, I'm here to answer questions for people anytime. Reach out to me.
Absolutely. And that's a great attitude to have, because at the end of the day, the more you give to the world, the universe has a way of working to where, things just come back around. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that are willing to take you up on that. And I'm sure they're going to be thankful for the advice and insight that you share on that front. So again, Todd, thanks again so much for your time. We greatly appreciate it. For those of you guys who are watching this on YouTube, we would greatly appreciate if you could like and subscribe to this channel. It really does make a difference to the YouTube algorithm and ensures more and more people can hear this message. If you guys are listening to this in a podcast format, whether that's Apple, Spotify, whatever else, please leave a 5-star review. It's made a huge impact on our ability to reach a broader audience, and we've seen a significant uptick in our downloads as a result. So thanks again so much for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next time.